Okay, so up until this point, when we've been asked to find a zero of a function, we've been given at least one to start with to be able to then find the rest. But now, with this new theorem, we'll be able, with the rational zero theorem, we'll be able to find the first rational zero and then use our knowledge of factoring and solving to find the rest of the zeros. So if f of x equals, and then this is the form of a polynomial in standard form, which is the highest power to the lowest, then every rational zero, and remember, rational was a number that can be written as a fraction, has the following form, and we can find all the possible rational zeros. So you need to write this theorem down. We'll pause the video while you do that. To find the rational zeros, so we're going to do number one, we need to first list all of the factors of p and all of the factors of q. So for p, that can be 1, 2, 3, or 6. But it could also be the negative numbers, because negative 1 times negative 6 is the positive 6 at the end. So for q, our possible factors are plus or minus 1 or plus or minus 3. So to list all the possible rational zeros, that's every p over q. So we can do 1 over 1 and 1 over 3, but plus or minus. And we can do 2 over 1 and 2 over 3. And I'm going to keep going, plus or minus 3 over 1, plus or minus 3 over 3, and then plus or minus 6 over 1, plus or minus 6 over 3. But then let's simplify these. It's plus or minus 1, plus or minus 1/3, 2, 2/3, 3. And then 3 divided by 3 is 1 again, so I don't need to rewrite that. 6, and then 6 divided by 3 is 2 again, so I don't need to write that. So here's all of my possible rational zeros. And you might be asking yourself, well, how are we going to pick which one to start with? You get to pick your favorite number. And then we're going to use synthetic division. And it's going to be a bunch of... So I'm going to start with 1. Maybe that will work. So for synthetic division, I'm going to write all of my coefficients. Bring down the 3, multiply, and then add. And when we add negative 18 and 6, we get a remainder. So that means that x equals 1 is not a 0. We want no remainder. So 1 does not work. So now let's try negative 2. Do that underneath. So let's try negative 2. We're going to use synthetic division again. All right, we get a remainder of 0. That's good. So that means x equal to negative 2 is one of our zeros. To find the other zeros, we can solve the remaining quadratic. These values are the coefficients of my new formula to factor. And I'm going to have to split the middle, so 3 times 3 is 9. And negative 1 and negative 9 I can use. Factor out the greatest common factor of each. Regroup. So 3x minus 1 is 0. X minus 3 is 0. So x is 1/3 and x is 3. So these two zeros, along with my x minus 2, are the 3 zeros to our original equation, which we had all the way up here. So we'll scroll that back down again. So we're going to try a few more examples. So first, for number 1, we have to list all of our p's and q's. So q is in the front, p is in the back. So all of our possible p's are 1, 3, oops, I forgot 2, and 6, all plus or minus. And for q, it's all plus or minus 1, which is nice, because then we have no fractions. And hopefully we pick a good one to start with. I'm going to start with positive 1 again. Because there's no x squared in our original formula or function, I need to hold the spot with the 0. So now I'm going to use synthetic division. Oops, that's supposed to be a negative 6. And then 0. So yes, we get a remainder of 0. So x equals 1 is our first 0. And now we need to factor to find the rest. So x equals 2 and x equals negative 3. Okay, we're going to pause the video here and you're going to try 2, 3, and 4. And then we'll resume and you can check your work against mine. Okay, hopefully you didn't have to go through too much trial and error to figure out your zeros in the first place. So for number 2, I'm going to start with 1 again. And uh-oh, I get a remainder of 12, so x equals 1 is not it. So let's try negative 1. And all right, that works. So x equals negative 1 is one of my first zeros. So now I'm going to use this remaining equation, 2x squared minus 8 equals 0. And since this doesn't, I can't factor, I'm going to move the 8 over and divide by 2, so I get x squared is 4. When I square root both sides, our last two zeros are plus or minus 2. Sorry about that. 2. Okay, for number 3, my P, my Q, so all my choices for P are 1, 2, 4, and 8 again. Choices for Q are just 1. I'm going to start with 1. Just go through my synthetic division. And that's great. We get a remainder of 0. So my first rational 0 is x equals 1. And now I need to factor the remaining equation. So x equals negative 4 and 2. And last but not least, number 4. My choices for P are all plus or minus 1 and 3. For Q, it's plus or minus 1 and 2. And this time I'm going to start with negative 1. And that works. So x equals negative 1 is my first 0. And then we've got 2x squared minus 5x minus 3. And we can factor this by splitting the middle again. And to get to a negative 6 and add to negative 5, I have to use 1 and 6. Factor out my greatest common factor. So x is negative 1/2 and x is 3 as my two other answers.